We've got a breaking news update tonight. A man ordered to apologize to the police for using profanity. Won't have to. Reginald Burks, attorney, tells us the judge backed off his demands. News 4's Jacqueline Lambert joins us to talk about the development in this case. So, Jacqueline, you spoke to Burks' attorney, David Harrison, about this. What can you tell us now?
Kinsley, City Prosecutor Joe Adams and Judge Nicholas Bull agreed to cancel the June 4th hearing for Reginald Burks. That's when Burks was to say, "I'm sorry," or go to jail. Bull's order created national coverage of the case and criticism by those who believe that order violates Burks' constitutional rights. Burks paid his ticket but fought back against the apology order tied to the citation.
It feels good, to believe that something should not have happened. And to finally get a resolution on at least a part of it about the jail time feels very good. I think it takes a lot of strength to take a stand like Mr. Burks did. I want to get across to if you've been done wrong by a system, challenge it. Maybe something positive will come out of it.
Harrison did find issue with part of the order that he believes insinuates that Burks agreed to apologize. He says his client told him that never happened. Kinsley?
Jacqueline Lambert, thank you for that report. Harrison says they plan to explore what their next course of action will be regarding this case.